Hi, I'm Judy Fishel. These videos are adapted from my book, Straight A's Are Not Enough. It's generally agreed that students have three main problems when it comes to taking notes. Some students write too much. They try to write every word. Soon they get behind and they miss part of the lecture. They pick up where the teacher is now, but soon they get behind again. This poor student is so busy trying to take dictation that he doesn't have time to understand what he's writing, and his notes don't make much sense. And then there are some students who write too little. Maybe they're bored. Maybe they're thinking about something else. Maybe they don't understand what's important enough to write down. And then there's some students who write random pieces of information. Perhaps they don't know how to recognize the main ideas. If you recognize yourself as fitting any of these patterns, you need to learn how to take better notes. Let's take a look at this problem in another way. Most people focus on having the notes be well written, maybe to impress their professor. But many students take notes and never look at them again. So this time, let's ask the big question. What kind of notes would you really want to study? Sure, I know some students will say that's impossible. I never want to study my notes. But if you're trying to make good grades, or even just a little bit better grades, or if you're trying to learn, you don't want to take notes and then throw them away. You should want to study both your book and your notes. Here are some possible answers. Students might want to read notes if they're neat and easy to read, well organized, if they include the main ideas and information likely to be on the test, or if the notes are easy to study and will really help you get better grades. These notes are definitely not neat or easy to read. If your notes are like this, you want to ask yourself, what is the problem? If you are trying to write too fast, slow down. It's better to write less but be able to read what you wrote. If the problem is that your handwriting is always this awful, then you need to learn how to write legibly. If your problem is a learning disability that includes poor handwriting, there should be an office on campus that can provide you with a note taker, a student who will take notes for you. But don't settle for notes that you cannot read. If your notes are not well organized, if they don't include all of the main ideas, you really can learn to recognize the clues that professors give you. Sometimes they list their main points in the introduction. Sometimes as they go along, they will say first, or to begin with, indicating the first main point. And they may go on to say second, third, fourth, or they might just say next, or the next reason is. And they often begin the last point with finally. You can also study each professor's style and recognize the main points in other ways. They might pause and check their own notes each time they go to a new point. They might stop to take a deep breath. Their voice might be louder. And finally, unless they run out of time, many professors end with a summary that lists all of the main points again. This will allow you to see if you have all of them. Once you recognize the main ideas, you should begin to add detail. Add definitions, explanations, evidence, or any of that who, what, when, where, how, and why that seems important. Another clue. Generally, if the professor has taken the time to write material on the board, it probably is important, and you need to include it in your notes. If the professor covers the board with writing, you won't be able to copy it all, so you just have to decide which information is most important. There are two main ways that are commonly used to organize notes. The first is using an outline. Let's look at three kinds of outlines. Many people use a rough outline similar to the one here on the left. It's basically the same as a formal outline, like the one on the right, except that this one has no letters and numbers. In either outline, the main ideas are all the way to the left. The details are underneath and an inch or so to the right of the main idea. If one of these details has sub-details, they would be even further to the right. Some students like to rewrite their notes using a more formal outline. They may find this organization easier to study and to remember. Then you might wait a few days and try to rewrite your outline by memory. Another form of an outline is a concept map. The main topic or title is in the center. Here it's shown in black. Then the main ideas are connected to the center topic. The details are connected to the main ideas, and if there were further sub-details, they'd be connected to the details. Visual learners may find a concept map is easier to remember. The second main way to organize notes is with a split page method. The best known of these is the Cornell method. On the left, you'll see how each page is divided. The title goes on the top. You take notes in the section here shown in white, generally using a rough outline. And at the bottom of the page, you'd write a summary of what was on that page. Finally, in the section shown in green is where there's some variation. Some use this area for keywords to help you remember what that section is about. Some write comments like diff in book, that is, different in the book, or a series of question marks meaning I don't understand, or anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 exclamation points to tell you how important it is, or a T, perhaps with a circle on it, to say this is going to be on the test. I prefer to use this area to write questions, questions that can be answered using the notes you took on the right side. This way you can use them just like flashcards to test your memory. You will read the question, try to answer it yourself, and then check your notes to see if you were right. Doing this 3 or 4 times the first week and then once a week after that will help you be well prepared for the next test. And a few more suggestions for taking better notes. First is to be prepared. When you read the chapter and learn the vocabulary before the lecture, you'll be familiar with the material and find it easier to understand. You might also find long words that are likely to be important in your notes. Create shortcuts and abbreviations. That makes it easier to take notes. In history, you might use initials for important people, like we all recognize JFK. That's a lot shorter than writing out John Kennedy. In biology, you could write an abbreviation like CHR for the word chromosomes. And then, After you take notes, you might want to rewrite and reorganize your notes until you get to where you can do them well the first time. Just trying harder would not have helped the students who try to write too much, too little, or who write the wrong things. Note-taking isn't easy. You need to try new strategies, and just like with all the skills that you learn, it helps to practice, practice, practice. And remember that taking great notes won't be much help unless you use those notes. So put study notes on your weekly schedule and study your notes regularly. Maybe 3 times the first week and once a week after that for a month. If you have comments or questions, you can go to my website or send me an email.